Welcome to Marvel Movie Talk, the only after show review show where the hosts are going to recreate the harmonies from the episode of the show. Everybody get ready.
I'll take
we've all
alto.
been practicing
Soprano.
on the Song of the Witch's Road. You know what? Let's save that for the end of the show. We want to keep people tuned in. As always, I am Christian Bladt. Next to me is the witch in our witches coven, the great Katie Hampton.
Hello, thanks for having me on.
And, well, Elton John has a song about David Brody.
I'm back.
It's called The Bitch is Back. Yes, the Brody's back. Hello, sir. Great to see you.
I thought he was the Rocket Man.
Elton John also has Yellow Brick Road, which is appropriate for what we're talking about.
Hey.
And if Nate is going to be with the double G, we all know what dog we're looking at and we're talking about. Of course, it's Nate Dog like Nate. We appreciate you guys being here. And we got 2 episodes of Agatha All Along. And Katie, you first. Your thoughts on getting these 2 episodes after, as they point out on the show, making us wait 3 years for this series.
Loved it. I think it's a really nice hard start. I did not realize that Disney would go this hard on some witch stuff, and I'm very impressed and very excited to talk about it all.
Someone who does go hard on witch stuff, of course, as we established a moment ago, is David Brody. Your thoughts, big picture on these first 2 episodes.
Sorry, it's my crow in the background. Calm down. I thoroughly enjoyed the 2 episodes. I didn't realize it was 3 years since WandaVision until Herb, the neighbor, said, "You've been here 3 years." I went, "Oh crap! It was pandemic time."
Yeah.
So this is a hell of a long time for a sequel. And as you know, it's a trilogy. So hopefully, Vision Quest doesn't take 3 years to come out. But I enjoyed it.
I believe it might. I believe Vision Quest might actually take 3
I don't know.
years.
All they said was it's coming out after Blade. So hopefully, fingers
Yeah, so what would we possibly wait for?
Right.
Look, it took a little while for a sequel, but they did just make a Beetlejuice sequel after 36 years. So at least we didn't have to wait that long. Now, Nate, I was telling Katie and Brody before we started that you're conditionally involved in our coverage on this show because you weren't sold on Agatha, but you said you were going to check out the first 2 episodes. So you've checked out the first 2 episodes. What do you think, sir?
Dragged, kicking, and screaming would be how I would describe it. It was a lot better than I thought it would be. I think the cast is incredible. All the casting is like really good, so the performances are really good to watch. I just am still. I think the show still may not be for me. I'm not so ready to just like stop watching it, but I'm just concerned that Secret Invasion broke my brain, and now it's hard to discern like what bad TV is from like unwatchable TV. So we'll see. I think that there are some nice, satisfying comic elements to it that I was not expecting to show up. It wasn't just straight like spooky, scary Halloween show vibes. I don't know. We'll see where it goes.
I feel like this is a big moment.
This is a big moment, but bad and unwatchable are 2 words that come to mind when we talk about Secret Invasion. So they check both of those boxes, but and yet we did watch all of it, didn't we? Look, we've talked a lot about the fact that we're getting this Agatha show, and it is 3 years after WandaVision, and it feels like at least 2 years kind of too late, but I did always have confidence as we started to hear more about the cast. I did like Catherine Hahn's portrayal. I knew that Aubrey Plaza was going to be involved. So I was cautiously optimistic, as we like to say. And I definitely had fun with what we were given. And I want to see where this road, this not yellow brick, but where this witch's road leads us. And I'm certainly interested. And Nate, do you feel like they've at least got you for one more week? Is it like just a renewing the contract on a week-to-week basis for you?
I will definitely watch next week's just to see kind of, because I feel like the first two are really like set up, and
Yeah.
then the next episode we'll kind of see what the formula of the show like actually is. So I'll watch another one.
All right, so that means means you're on the hook with us for one more week, and then we'll see. So we'll also renegotiate our contract every single week. Let's start with episode 1. That has kind of an interesting take, and it did bring me back to WandaVision, where I was wondering, I'm like, oh wait, is every episode of this show going to be like a different kind of show? Because I was like, all right, but so I was going to say true crime, but no, but like the crime drama is the vibe we're being given in the very beginning. And we're supposed to be a little disoriented. I did like that in the credits, it said based on the Danish television series
Right.
WandaVision, as a number of shows like the Bridge and other crime dramas. Yeah, no, other crime dramas are based on, formats, as they say, from other countries. Brody, you look like you're requesting the talking stick.
Yes, I actually screenshotted what you're talking about, and it said based on the Danish series WandaVision.
I didn't have my glasses on, so I didn't realize it was one division. Yeah, that's almost
VISDYSEN. WandaVision. Swedish.
This is not really a reference that our co-host or the audience are privy to, but it's like that AI you tried to use to create a logo for an upcoming project and it had all those extra letters in it. Yeah.
I gave it a simple title for our upcoming project, and it kept adding the same 2 or 3 letters to the end of a very simple word.
Oh, that's annoying.
Interesting, as we were talking about Secret Invasion, Daniel Drew said, I'm sorry, what show was that? And Cami Egan reminds us that it is the show that shall not be named. Thank you.
I know. I said the word. I'm sorry.
We wanted people to know about what it was that we were talking about. Great to see everyone here in the chat. So yeah, I thought it was definitely an interesting foray into a different format, but I was relieved when the spell started to break, and I'm like, okay, this is just where we are in this one. But I would have probably been good for at least one more week of I don't know what it would
Mayor
have
of
been.
Easttown.
Well, this felt like a little bit Mayor of Easttown, but I wasn't in for a whole episode of this format, so I'm glad it went away. If they were going to have her in another spell next week, it would have to be a different show. Might I suggest Welcome Back, Kotter, where she's teaching the Sweat Hogs, possibly something from the 21st century. But Katie, as it begins to unfold and we get to see the spell that Agatha's under, what are your thoughts as you're watching the first episode?
I mean, just from like an acting perspective, I love that basically Catherine Hahn is doing a Mayor of Easttown impression and like full on just chewing the scenery and like having a blast with this whole format. It was one of those things that I was just like, okay, when are we going to unveil this? When are we going to get her out of this sort of like hex world of where she seems to clearly be in? And I wasn't expecting it to pop in and so soon, but we kind of get like a little sense when Aubrey Plaza comes in that she gets a note from Epstein's mother.
Well, so that's not Jeffrey Epstein, if that's who you're thinking of. No, that's a reference to Welcome Back, Kotter. Yeah, no.
Mm-hmm.
That's don't get your Epsteins confused.
Yeah.
No. The appearance of Aubrey Plaza's character is where we start to go, okay, obviously something is amiss here, right, Katie?
Right. And we also get a little bit of a hint of that when she discovers the brooch in the water. And, like, we're not really sure why she takes that piece of evidence and like says like nothing's there or whatever. But, we'll continue down that story and figure that out later. But I do love how they subtly like bring up notes of just like, oh, you're in a hex right now. And I remember watching the trailer for this being like, ooh, are they gonna do like a different style each episode? But I like how they rolled this out and how they subtly brought everything kind of either within her world in the dialogue or like they brought some of her pieces like out by saying like, you're not quite seeing this correctly, and
Right.
you see that in some of the dialogue going forward with some of the other characters. not just
Right,
Aubrey.
and just even, do you remember why you hate me? And
Right.
the answer is no.
No.
Ivan Soto, did everyone but me know Aubrey Plaza is half Puerto Rican? And the reason he mentions that is his own descent. And says her speaking Spanish made me fall in love with her. That's interesting because her deadpan delivery and not give a shit about anybody delivery on Parks and Rec is what made me, at least drawn towards her as a character actor. That first time.
One of the best lines from Parks and Rec for her is like, "I'm Puerto Rican, which explains my lively personality."
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah,
I
and
have a Disney Plus.
Sorry, I still have the working theory that she played an iteration of the Shadow King on Legion on FX, and
She was
I'm
incredible in that show.
Yeah, I've got the working theory, Nate, that she's still that character, but I might be disproven at some point. But
I wasn't sure how Aubrey was going to fit into all this, and I've been really pleasantly surprised by her performance in these first 2 episodes. I thought she really fits because she can be very sardonic, almost to a point where it's like you don't really fit into some of the stuff. But I thought she did an excellent job, and I'm very excited to see more from her.
What did you think, Mayor of Brodytown?
Well, I was going to say, as far as her speaking Spanish, I didn't know what she said when Agatha asked her to get out of her office. And then as she walked out, she said, I don't know. I don't know what she said. So I put on the subtitles and it said speaking Spanish. That's not helpful.
Okay, so she said, I see you, essentially. She said, te veo, I think.
Okay. I thought she said de nada. I'm like, that doesn't make sense. So I went and looked at the subtitles. It said spoke Spanish. Spoke Spanish. I'm like, tell me what she said.
There's a lot of words. Yes. And you know what? You need to watch this show with Ivan Soto because he also explained what Katie just said. Go ahead, Brody. Sorry.
We could get into this later, but they pretty much told you who her character is. She gave it up.
Well, why don't you do? I would just say it now then. If
okay, so when Don't Cry for Me, Argentina Witch, forget her name.
Rio Vidal.
What's her name? No,
Patty
LuPone. I was going to say Patty LuPone.
When Patty LuPone gives her the list of 4 names, and she won't say who the 4th name was, and she eats the message. It said Black Heart, and she went and got Mrs. Heart. But if you remember when she was fighting Rio, she says, "You don't have a heart." And Rio says, "I have a heart. It's a black heart." And if you know Marvel Comics, like all you do, Blackheart is Mephisto's daughter or son in the comics. She might be playing Mephisto's daughter. And as we know, Very Nice is playing Mephisto.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're saying is that
David Ogden Spears,
after decades of being told that we were going to get a Disney Plus Marvel series with Mephisto, you're saying this is the time that we're actually going to get Mephisto. Is that what you're saying, Brody?
I'm saying that, what's his name again? David Ogden Spears, Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Sacha Baron Cohen.
Sacha Baron Cohen. He's confirmed to play Mephisto somewhere. And this is clearly Mephisto's daughter. And since Wanda's kids are in this show, allegedly, or we may have already seen one.
Right.
And Mephisto helped create them. I'm pretty sure we're going to see Mephisto is what I'm saying.
Well, and also if you break down the opening credits, the fake opening credits for this sort of the Agnes of Westview, which I love that, and that they talk about Eastview, fucking hilarious. But there is a point where they show a football scoreboard, and it's like the Westview players against the Blue Devils.
The Blue Devils.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And here's something else. The clock in her office and the clock in the interrogation room were both at 333. Yeah, you knew that.
Half of a 666.
Well, 2 of them together is 666. So
Daniel Drew says, "I would love if she was Blackheart. I wouldn't mind if they had multiple actors in that role, but the yang to his yin, Ivan Soto." Joan Jett. People are already theorizing she's Blackheart, but that's too obvious. We'll see. All right, so Nate, already being dragged, kicking and screaming to this series. You tune in, you're getting sort of a very light send up of something.
I almost turned it off so fast. The dialogue was so bad. I was like,
I cannot.
And then my brain was like, no,
They're doing a thing.
This is a misdirect. There's something going on. And then when they explained it, I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. The neighbor guy who's at the hedge
Yeah.
wall,
Herb.
that was
Herb,
hilarious. He's my
Yeah.
favorite character. That was
Well,
great.
and if you look too, like he
From
says hello
the
neighbor.
police tape line. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like that
I
clue that like, oh, something else is going on.
exactly. I haven't gone back and watched it yet, but I did skim through a little bit of it, and just now with the knowledge, you can definitely see that like the reason why the dialogue was so stiff and awkward. They're parodying a show, but also because the other person in the scene is like, I don't know what's going on. I'm just trying to
Right.
play along because we know something's wrong with you. I thought that was clever. A nice way to kind of tie it to WandaVision, without just completely cannibalizing the trope to do it over and over again. They did it as like an intro to now their own format that they're going to follow. I thought that was cool. The Blackheart thing, like I thought that immediately when she said that, and I thought it was a little almost like
Too soon.
not even too soon, just like too obvious of like if you're hunting for Easter eggs, you're gonna get this. And especially in the end of her, like of the first episode of her not, or second episode, her not going to get Rio, but instead going to get Miss Hart, who's actually Sharon. What was her name actually?
I
Uh,
don't remember her
not-
like character name.
Well,
her
but
not
so yeah,
WandaVision
she
name.
has a different lesson. But you're talking about the great Deborah Jo Rupp, who people of course know from that 70s
that
show. But
and
yes,
that 90s show now.
thank you. Netflix thanks you for promoting their content.
Would make sense to me to have Mephisto connections, if not just for the sake of fulfilling the fan prophecies of the entirety of WandaVision theorizing. But as a creative, like I feel like that would be kind of disappointing to just be like, yeah, we'll just do exactly what they thought it was. So
Sure.
I think it's a misdirect, especially because Blackheart is more of like a Ghost Rider villain and doesn't really interact with as much of like the magical element of Marvel. I have a theory about it, but I think we can save that for later. But
Do
I
you,
do
do you feel like
appreciate
you need to
the theory.
save your theory for later? Because if you want to just throw it out there, I don't want
I
to be the
think
one to
that
stop you.
I think Miss Hart is Rio. I think that Rio has been there keeping tabs on her, and that when she goes to get Miss Hart, I think part of her knows that it's actually Rio. And I think, I don't know, there's just like,
There's
why
got
would
to
the
be a reason
door
why the door
open?
opened. Yeah.
Yeah, why would the door open? Why would she go along with all that stuff?
She did
Now,
have my favorite moment in the second episode, which was, "Am I supposed to know this song?"
I love that. Her
that-
in that episode was just
Yeah.
amazing, and her just like finally getting into it.
Yeah.
Hilarious. But forgive me for not knowing this, but Rio is
So Rio's the character name for Aubrey Plaza, as we've
Got
met
it.
her. Yeah,
Okay.
Rio
that's-
Vidal is what she's cast
Yeah.
as, which is not a character that appears in the comics. It's something they made for this, but
Okay.
it could also just be an anagram for something else, or it's just something to kind of throw us off from knowing exactly what the character is or what part that they play. The book that they take a lot of this from, like the Witches Road stuff, has a character that's like the Emerald Witch or something like that. It's been a while since I've read it. And so this
that's
character,
not the witch that some bitch from Kansas dropped her house on top of her. Am I getting my witches confused?
different one. In the
Okay,
books, it's
sorry,
actually a
apologies.
guy. So this could be a gender swapped version of that character, and there is some relevancy to the Scarlet Witch as well as Agatha involved in that. So I think this is likely that kind of a scenario. But I do appreciate that there is some type of mystery that has some connections to comic lore. These are the things that I do enjoy these TV shows for, and I'm glad that they are still kind of like digging into some of the magic area of Marvel's roots, because it's definitely a less tapped, less adapted space. and there are some cool characters and stories in there. So this is the silver lining of hope I have of like, okay, this show could be pretty cool, because ultimately it seems like the show's not about Agatha, which is what my concern was, because like cool side character, I don't want a whole show of her. But if she is the kind of instrument to introduce us to more of the magical world, especially because she has such a like important place historically within it, then I think this could be a really cool premise for a show.
Yeah, no, I think that the setup throughout both of these episodes, you do have to kind of grade it on a curve a little bit, where you're like, okay, because really it ends, and now you're like, okay, this really is going to be what the series is, and let's see what happens as they go to the Witch's Road. You mentioned the Scarlet Witch, and as the case goes along, we realize that's the one of the Jane Does, as were pointed out, and obviously just a quick redhead wig, that was all we really needed. I
did think it was interesting that we had a lot of shots with face covered, like every single angle it was always covered, and I was honestly, when it first happened, I was like, that's Aubrey. I was like, that looks like Aubrey, but I'm curious, and I feel like as the show went on, I was like, oh, maybe I don't know fully, and I was like, is that the Scarlet Witch though? Because I don't know.
That's what she thinks it is.
That's what she thinks.
I don't think that the body even really exists as much as within the framing of the hex that she's still caught into, right? She's in this detective murder mystery show, and so because her mind is trying to figure out why she's trapped in there, she's seeing that as her investigating this murder, because it has like her seeing the body is part of what allows her to break out of the hex, because only because the Scarlet Witch is dead now is she able to get out of the hex. So I don't think she's dead. I think she's comic dead, but I think that little span of time when she was dead was enough to allow the hex to have like a little bit of like some breaking room. So I think
enough to snap her a little.
That's why when she's like the whole thing is her like subconscious, as well as Rio and Wiccan, not Wiccan, trying to get her to see the hex that's like wrapped up around her, and her finally acknowledging like, oh, that's Scarlet Witch, she's dead, I'm Agatha, is like we're seeing her kind of like break through. I thought what was really cool too, aside from her getting in the car and seeing that it's this thing that she's rigged up in her living room, which was hilarious, but was just nice. The implication of her like taking off her clothes to like kind of get out of the hex, and then all of a sudden she's in her house, and I'm like, oh, she's been in her house the whole time. That was really cool.
Yeah, we've got some insight from our friends in the chat. Ivan Soto says the reason the showrunner didn't show Wanda's face is because the show is supposed to be Agatha's, and she wanted to put a focus on that. Also, there is no reason to pay Elizabeth Olsen to lay on a slab. That's
it right there.
I think that's a. We don't use the bell a lot, and I know Ivan hates when I ding the bell, but that was time for it. Yes, Teen Freed Agatha wasn't either, but I agree with Daniel Drew. It's a little bit more nuanced. It's sort of like you kind of break through a little bit with the body, and then whatever it is that teen has to say. We keep dancing around the teen notion, and I'm sorry, finish your thought, Katie.
So I was just going to say that it's kind of like how Agatha broke Wanda a little bit, like piece by piece, out of like her whole hex thing. Like there were little tiny moments that were like, what? Oh, this is not as all as it appears. But yeah, sorry. That's all.
No, Ivan also says Teen's mystery is my favorite. This is basically what we're all saying. It's obvious he's Wiccan, but the mystery around him is so cool. I do like the touches where, like, when he tries to say his name, his mouth gets sewn up. And
looks like Wanda's name
with the letter M. It was for Maximoff, right?
Yeah, but then also when he's telling his story from like where he's from, it's he can't hear it. I'm sorry, she can't hear it. So,
but also on IMDb, just listed as teen. I love that.
Yeah,
that like even on IMDb, they're like, nope, we're not gonna tell you.
How about the fact that when he looks at his phone, his boyfriend is on FaceTime, and Wiccan is gay in the comics, and now this kid is gay. And I mean, there's a lot of gay people. Don't get me wrong, but there's at least 9.
Literally,
I get it.
The first thing that I thought of when I saw that in the car was like, people are going to be like, "Oh, he's gay. It must be Wiccan." only gay person.
Well,
I'm saying it's
him
one
and
more
him and
piece along the puzzle.
yeah,
all.
he's either Wiccan or North Star from Alpha Flight. That's the only.
Right, there's only
character he
a
could possibly
couple of
be.
gay
Iceman.
superheroes. So
Okay, he could be Iceman.
That's true. I forgot that.
Bobby
that
Drake is gay now.
Bobby Drake was gay.
Listen, Brody.
He wasn't.
we
He
kind of
wasn't gay in
always
1962.
listen.
Oh, are you sure? You want to go
we
back and look?
always knew. We always
wanna go back
knew
and read?
about Iceman.
I mean, from what I understand, Iceman has always been fluid. Hit the bell.
Oh,
That was awful, but I'll hit the bell just to
God.
move on. Daniel Drew. When it was the procedural show, there was that moment where we see her look into that empty room with the stuffed bear. The name on the plaque was Agatha's son in the comics, Nicholas Scratch. That sounds like a comic book name if ever there was one, Nicholas Scratch. And the Salem 7 are his children in the comics.
Oh.
Daniel Drew providing us with so much background. There's a character poster that may have released of Teen that looks more like Wiccan. We'll see, though. And Ivan Soto, why put boyfriend instead? I would have preferred Bay over Boyf. Hey, perhaps he doesn't call him Bay or boyfriend, and that's just how it's like, oh, it's my boyf. Maybe that's just how he talks.
I will
He's Gen
say,
Z.
I will say, Ivan, that like I agree. Like when I saw Boyf, I was like, oh, that gives me ick. Like what is
Just
that?
because it's a reminder that while you might not be as old as Brody, Katie's even aging out of.
I am.
How what?
Just catching strays.
I can't
don't
get
get
that Riz
salty,
anymore,
AF.
guys.
Don't get salty with me, AF. I got plenty of Riz.
AF.
Thank you.
Oh, Lordy.
Right. Go back to work.
Yes, thank you.
We're all
Thank you.
aging out of this.
Somebody had to go.
All right. So, and that's a little bit more. I'm sorry. Daniel Drew's like, wait, Bay is already old slang.
Yeah.
And you've horrified Ivan Soto with Riz, and that's all of
Good.
us. And it's almost like this seems like I'm just going to trust Ivan Soto for this. Agatha's bunny is called Mr. Scratchy. Cool homage to Nicholas Scratch.
Oh, I
read too that
Yeah,
there was
WandaVision.
originally plans in the first season of WandaVision.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the stuff that got scrapped by the production halting. The
Right.
bunny, there was supposed to be a scene where the bunny like turns into like a demon or something and chases the kid around, something like that.
Wow.
I don't know if they're
Wow.
continuing with that, but yeah, Nicholas Scratch is Agatha's child in the comics. And then obviously we have that scene of them, like her peering in the room with the kid and stuff. So I think he's definitely going to come up at some point. I also too noticed that when she goes to meet what's her name, the second witch, the one who had the goop store,
Shamir Zameda.
Jennifer Kale.
Yeah.
She says like, oh, another child sacrifice. So
Yeah.
I'm wondering if she sacrificed her own child to get the dark
I mean,
He would be- he
here's
would
one
be
of the things. I don't know if you guys watched Mayor of Easttown, but one of the themes is
did,
that
yeah.
like she lost a kid, and so a lot of those things it felt like were being pulled for her story as well. So yeah, I think.
Or it could have just been a witch cliche, like, oh, we do children
Right.
sacrifices. Because someone said to
Well,
her,
that's
Patty LaPone said, the people. That's why people think we eat kids, and she goes, they are tasty.
Yes.
Which, it's
Oh, they definitely.
yeah. I mean,
Oh,
Mayor of
fuck.
Eastwick.
Yeah.
Nice.
Nice.
All right.
That's
All
a good
right.
one.
All right. He's back. Look at Brody. So as we're sort of going through Agatha trying to come out of the spell, just before we move on, I think sort of the best part of that first episode is the interaction between the two of them. And you don't even know why you hate me. I was like, no, but could you tell us? Because we don't know either. I did enjoy watching that sort of the back and forth. The Aubrey Plaza as the cop
FBI
from
agent.
the FBI agent. That's what it was. I knew
FBI.
it was over. Yeah. I thought that was all, I thought interesting, and just to watch their back and forth has me interested in whenever they're going to be on screen again. And I think that was kind of the high point. But we do have a lot more interaction with Teen in the second episode. But we do we do kind of get to see him. Is there, before we move on to the second episode, is there something I'm forgetting about, something I'm missing from episode 1 that we should talk about?
The only thing I noticed, which I noticed and then got confirmed when I was watching another video, when she's trying to figure out the code and the book is Darkhold, the first letter, and it says written by Andrew Hugo.
Yeah.
That's an anagram for Wundagore, which is the mountain, of course, where she died.
Oh, okay. I didn't catch that. I did catch when she was transitioning sort of out of her Mary Bustown stuff. I like a couple of things. I mean, we've got the 50s I Love Lucy character that she kind of winds up in. And then also we have like a physical, like kind of shout
Malcolm
out.
in the Middle. That was her Malcolm in the Middle outfit.
Was that from
WandaVision? The one that said naughty on her ass? That one? Oh, you mean
no,
the 80s?
that was
the 80s one.
Yes.
The 80s one was from the Family Ties episode, or whichever the 80s episode was from WandaVision.
Yeah.
Can we talk about her, how great she looked from behind at some point? No pun intended.
Well,
was that CGI?
That was something we hadn't brought up. That she's walking around naked
for sure
in
on a Disney Plus show.
I was surprised. I'm going to assume stunt ass, but is that what you're getting at, Brody? Is that where?
Yeah, was it stunt ass? I mean, she looked like she went right from talking to Herb, turned around and ran. I'll have to watch it again. You know.
Yeah. You have to watch it again. Yeah. And
Disney
great
nudity
point from Ivan Soto. Second nudity in the MCU, first Thor.
I will say,
exercise outfit was the Family Ties episode. Sorry, go ahead.
Thank you, Cam Egan.
Yes, I will say that like when she showed up, like you could kind of tell that there were some nudie shorts. But apart from that, like this is what I'm talking about. Like I was really shocked at like some of the violence, and B, like especially when it became like not what Agatha versus Aubrey Plaza's character, like they got a little bit more intense than I was expecting. I guess that's the second episode, but yeah.
No, but I know what you're saying in terms of like when Agatha grabs the blade.
Yeah. Oh God. Oh, that.
And Ivan Soto's like, I love when immortal beings talk about remembering pain. And it looks like Ivan Soto's done our homework for us because he said that Catherine Hahn confirmed that is her Han. That
she strikes me as the like 110% actor, like no, I'll do it kind of person, especially with the way that she like fully like. I did appreciate the minor flashes of her like going through the other character iterations because she is such a fantastic. She's one of those actors that can like mold herself to a role, and so even seeing her be the same person but different iterations of that person, even in those split seconds, like she did a great job of that.
Yeah, she's a chameleon for sure, and like to be able to show that much range in that
range. Sorry, I thought you were about to say to show so much flesh.
Oh, yes, her ass. Which also that was. I felt like I don't know, like I understand that was sort of like the real world her, but it felt like it had a tone of Weeds. Am I wrong in that? Am I the only one that kind of saw that? Like just based on like the humor that they were kind of doing, it felt like almost like we were like I had a moment where I was like, are we still in the hex? Like, is this real life? Like I had a moment where I couldn't really tell which was reality and which was maybe a show or TV shout out.
Yeah, there is still part of like just the Westview like aesthetic that just kind of gives like not real. And I'm with you of like at some points I wasn't sure of like, is there still something else going on, or is this really just actually Pleasantville? Like
did you have any thoughts along those lines, Brody? I it's funny because I was watching some of the exteriors and thinking about just how much it looked like a backlot, a studio backlot. I think for this show it's supposed to, you know what I mean? They usually, I don't think that they worked to hide it and make it look real in the same way.
It's definitely Desperate Housewives Street, like the next block over. Like it looks the same pristine houses and perfect street, and it's definitely not a real street that they filmed on. Like, so I mean that's the vibe you get. But I think it was definitely real world in the show, even though it doesn't look real to us because it's a backlot. But I think when she's naked talking to Herb, that's real. That's her. And she's like, how long have I been here? He's like, 3 years. We've been playing along because, you're kind of a freak and we don't want you to hurt us. So we're like, yes, sir, officer,
Yeah, it's been a wild few years for those people.
No
I think too that they can like relate a little bit because they were also trapped in a hex for a long time. So they're like,
Right.
oh yeah, she's still stuck in that thing. So let's try to bring her some groceries or something.
Right, which I thought was like a really nice addition.
Yeah.
Like it's not something that I would have thought about, especially with all the people that were trapped in that world. Like,
Yeah.
how are
Well,
they
remember
doing?
we found out too that they were conscious of that the whole time. They were not in
Yeah.
control, but it's not like they don't remember it. They remember everything.
Yeah.
Agatha sort of saved them, but if she's not a witch anymore and she's just a powerless crazy lady, why wouldn't you call the Avengers or Shield or somebody and say, look, there's a former superpowered witch living over here and she's out of her mind. Come get her. Instead, they let her like own a home. Oh, whose home was she has a house?
Do they know that like she's a witch? Like, do they know that, or was that just what they thought she was within like the story of Hex?
Yeah, I mean, did they see her flying around with Wanda? Maybe they. I don't know. Maybe they didn't. I don't know. You're right.
Well, to that question though, and maybe they've been made to forget it. Daniel Drew's saying, "Why haven't they moved out of that town?" I think it's all part of whatever Wanda did. They're actually stuck there, and they you don't get to think like, "Hey, we should really call the Avengers or something like that." So
I did see someone online point out that if you look at the Westview signs from WandaVision to now, the population has gone down. So there's definitely some people that
some people left. I love that they like, noted it on the sign.
Nope, back to the big city for me.
I love when people do the things that sometimes I think about. It's like, oh, look, there's the population number. I wonder if it went down. Oh, well, no. And then they actually go and look. I'm like, I'm glad there's people like that. That's why I always am so glad we have our chat on these shows, because I'm like, yeah, did anybody Google anything? Oh, you did. Great. Thank you. Oh, no, but see, Daniel's disappointed in himself. He's like, I forgot to check this
failure.
Daniel.
He was too busy researching Catherine Hahn's ass to look up the population.
Kim Egan says that Agatha spitting at the vacant lot was her acknowledgement of Wanda. I think that's fair. I agree.
Yeah.
So we dive into the second episode, and, we are with Teen, and I think that she does a great job in making sure that there's never for a minute that we mistake Agatha Harkness for a likable person. Anytime she can throw a pen out the window, rip down a sign that Teen made, it's just like, I mean, she's a witch, so it's consistent.
Yeah, but she's specifically a bad witch. Like,
well, yeah,
probably the worst. Like,
she's not Glenda.
No. So someone should drop their house on Agatha, I guess, is the point.
Well,
so
it's a vacant lot now. So
yeah, right. It is a vacant lot now. So as this second episode starts, Nate, we've shed the crime drama artifice, to use a big word that I don't get to use often enough. What do you think as that starts to, as we go on the adventure and we're like, all right, that's clearly in the rearview mirror. This is not going to be an episode based on, some other drama. This isn't the Spin City episode or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I assumed as soon as she broke out of the hex in the first episode that we were not going to continue that format, and I was very happy to see that. I thought the only thing that struck me odd really about the second episode was them like driving out of Westview and then all of a sudden they're like in another town and just happen upon a psychic who's also the lady that she knows, and the part of them finding everyone felt to me very much like, okay, we're just gonna do this thing. Like, we're not going to explain how or where these people are, how we found them or anything. We just did. They're coming with us. And I didn't really like that part. I am curious to see like how those characters, like what their backstory is, like more, they hinted at a lot for each of them that there's like something that they have to like overcome, which is, what you want from characters. But I think what I appreciated the most was near the end of that episode when like you said, like Agatha is a bad guy, and she's reminding us that she's a bad guy, and she's like, just blast me, like, drops the B word, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And her kind of like almost revealing that I think she was telling the truth. I don't think that she intends for them all to reach the end of the road and live happily ever after and everyone get their stuff. I think she is absolutely trying to just use them as a means and end for her to get power back or whatever it is that she wants. So the scene of them, like, where they were like opposed from each other and the clairvoyant lady was like, don't do it, that's what she wants. Like, I think that's going to be a really interesting dynamic going forward now that they've made it to the road of like, okay, they're very, very cautiously following her, which I think is going to set up for some cool conflicts.
Yeah.
No, I definitely think that that the road will be sort of an interesting part of the journey for all of us. And when I was like looking up the show, in my head it was an 8-episode show and ending on Halloween basically, but I guess they're doing 2 more episodes on Halloween, so there's 9 episodes, but it is over these next whatever 7 weeks. So it'll be interesting to see how much time they spend with traveling on the road. I think I want it to be a little while, but let's get to what the road's supposed to take us to. I'm on board for the journey. Just don't stretch it out quite so long. That's what my hope is as we go on. What do you think, Katie? As we get through the episode and we get to that point, we'll sort of circle back to the other witches. But as we talk about the road itself.
I'm still kind of curious as to what it means to go on the road, because everyone has been warning, like, it ends in death, everybody dies, yada yada. So I'm not fully clear on like what's going to happen, other than like you get your greatest desire. And forgive me, I am going to circle back real quick. Just when they're going and picking up all the different witches, or like informing them where to meet. What do you guys think was the meaning of the crow distracting Agatha that was sitting perched on top of a giant sign that says Carter?
I don't think the sign has anything to do with it. I think it's just like in the same as like the rat and the wolf that we saw. I think that those are the Salem 7, like keeping an eye on her, waiting for the sun to go down, I guess. But like, I think that's what that was. In the comics, the Salem 7, some of them kind of resemble animals and have like different witchy shape-shifting powers. So that's how I interpreted it, at least, especially with dude slithering down the steps like
that was wild. Yeah, that was so creepy.
I did like that.
Good. Yeah.
I took the crow to be like one of the Salem 7's familiar, like their pet. And I thought I'm probably wrong. I thought the sign said catering. So if it said Carter, I didn't catch that.
Well, that was just because you were hungry, I think, when you were watching. That might have been
absolutely hungry, and I was thinking of Gary Carter also at the same time, so I was a little torn.
Well, it was because it was like so fully in frame, and granted, I did watch this fairly late because I watched it after doing a show, and I was a little bit sleepy. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, so you didn't just finish watching it right before the show, so that we had to start 5 minutes late? You didn't do that? Oh, okay. I'm the only one.
I kind of assumed, Christian, that maybe a podcast before it might go late, and I wouldn't have enough time. I
didn't think it would go 2 hours and 20 minutes, did I? But anyway, go back.
If only it premiered last night, giving everyone a chance to watch it yesterday. That's terrible.
Enough out of you, Brody.
Hey, look, some of us are on the West Coast and we only have like 6 p.m. to watch it. Okay.
Yeah.
You had an extra 3 hours than I did.
It's true.
That was the West Coasting excuse. You had 3 more hours.
Sorry, I didn't put enough sarcasm on that.
Exactly. So we had plenty of time, but you know what? I finished it. So you were a little tired at the time. Is the point.
I was, but I don't know. Something about the Carter sign just made me like pause and be like, I feel like this means something that I don't understand. It. I was like, the only thing I could think of was Agent Carter, and I was like, that cannot be connected by any stretch, as far as I know. But in terms of the road, I do think it's interesting that Teen is very gung-ho to get to the road, and that their involvement has helped encourage different pieces of like all the different witches. And I don't know. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, no,
I think he wants his brother back or his mother. I think
Yeah.
that's like his goal is family.
Yeah, I
is
think
my guess.
the fact that it's not they're trying to keep it quiet, but
Right.
it's sort of one of those worst kept secrets
Sure.
that he's Wiccan. And yes, I do believe similarly to what Wanda was up to in Multiverse of Madness. I wanted to let you chime in, Brody, on sort of what we're all talking about as we head down the road, the Witch's Road. And anytime you want to break into the song from the show, I'll put you full
Sure.
screen. So
Sure, appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Well, I was just thinking if instead of Wiccan it was Speed, he would be done with the road in about a second. He's just, he'd be done. So
That's the reason why it's not.
I can probably tolerate 3 to 4 episodes of road episodes.
Whoa, that's a lot of road. Okay.
Well, hold on. If they like the second episode, they get trapped in a castle and then that becomes the episode. Like they make a right turn and there's like the woman making gingerbread cookies and breadcrumbs for the kids. And, there's adventures that appear on the road. Right.
So you basically want them to be quantum leaping into nursery rhymes each episode?
I'm saying like they're going down the road. Like, oh, there's a farm. Let's go see what's going on in the farm. But if they're just walking down a road and there's a couple of snakes and they kill the snakes and they keep going, that could be boring. But if each episode is an adventure on the road, then the road is sort of second place to the adventure going on. I feel like there'll be MacGuffins everywhere and little missions they have to complete. One of them is going to get kidnapped or fall in a trap door. They have to find her. She'll be gone for 2 episodes and they'll find her somewhere else. Like the standard stuff.
You've really mapped out these 9 episodes.
I've watched Disney before, so I know what's going on. I watched The Descendants.
Oh, I have not watched that. But Cami Egan in the chat says, do you think Agatha could pop up or be referenced in Fantastic Four? And I say, absolutely. I think that that is probably somewhere we're going to see the character. Obviously, her Marvel iteration is very different than Catherine Hahn, but she's a very important character in the Fantastic Four mythos. I don't know that we're going to see her in the first FF movie. I think that there's probably some plans somewhere along the way for that. So let's circle back to the other witches. I liked the way that they created a set for Hot Topic that clearly wasn't branded Hot Topic, but we all looked at it and go like, okay, so she works at a Hot Topic. I was like, very well done to sort of walk that line. That's what if it's a Hot Topic without the sign? And what did we think of the witches that we got to meet? You can start with any of them, Katie. What do you think? Well, we should each talk about each of them.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't realize that Sashir Zameda was going to be in the show, and then also singing wonderfully. Like, I feel like that woman just continues to show amazing talent and skill, and this is such an interesting out of place character for her in my mind that I'm like, oh, this is so cool. Like, let her book more. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. The goop, exactly what I was thinking as soon as she popped on screen. It was like it's very goop style, and what was the candle was a probiotic.
Yes,
itself, gross. But I thought that was interesting. I'm still like, this is such a side of Marvel that I'm not at all familiar with any of the magical stuff. So I'm more intrigued by Patti LuPone and Sashir Zameda. The singer was it the singer or was it the singer's child that was the witch in the Hot Topic?
Yeah,
it's the singer's child.
The child, yes, okay. Exactly.
Okay.
And we don't really get to know that much about her, just the attitude. And then at one point she said, I used to be a cop, So
she's the one that felt the most rushed of an introduction. But then also when you're going to introduce 3 characters into a show on episode 2 that runs for functionally 25 minutes, like somebody's going to get the short end of the stick.
Fair.
Yeah. And I'm sure we'll get to spend more time with her. And the idea that her mom had a huge hit with this song, and you do always wonder, when they talk about what a great song, and then you actually hear the song and you go, how's this song a hit? Like,
Right.
Magic.
But I'm excited for Deborah Jo Rupp. Like her coming. I agree with you, Nate. I feel like there's something more there to her character than we're seeing. But boy, did she crack me up in that, like, oh, there's a party? I want to come to a party. Let me get my purse.
She's always great, I think that I hadn't considered it, but now all I can think is what Nate said, is that it's going to be one of those Mission Impossible face reveals, and it's going to be Aubrey Plaza. It was Aubrey all along, basically. What did you think of our coven in the making, Nate?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good groundwork for some characters. If I take my show enjoyer brain off and put my analytical TV show maker hat on, this is 2 episodes. The finale is 2 episodes together, so that's 4 of 9. So that leaves us 5 episodes in the middle to do our character's journey, and we have 5 characters in the coven. So it seems to me like each character is going to get kind of their own focused episode, and then probably die or leave in some capacity that affects the story, until there's only so many people left at the end, and then we get our kind of reveal and conclusion about, haha, I'm actually not Wiccan, I'm Mephisto, or something ridiculous of that nature. I really like it. Almost is too obvious, and they're trying so hard to obscure it that, like, it almost makes me think that it's not Wiccan, but they've also already spent so much time like developing a whole bunch of young Avengers that it almost doesn't make sense for it not to be Wiccan, especially with WandaVision. And like, I don't know. And then there was the whole thing too. We didn't talk about it too much, but he talks about a car accident in East Town, and like, very long story short, with when Wiccan comes back, he's not Billy Maximoff, he's Billy Kaplan. Actually, the way that they survive is like when they get destroyed after being created, but like right before it, he casts a spell to like preserve him and his brother's souls, and then they get kind of like cast into another body. So I think that Teen is actually like the physical form of another body of Billy that died or something, and then the Wiccan Billy Maximoff character soul kind of went into that and then kind of created the amalgamation we're seeing now. And I think that is why there's something to do with like the background and him saying his name and all that stuff. But again, also it's like so on the nose that my Easter egg red herring brain is like, no, it can't be that. That's just like too obvious.
Yeah, I think it is interesting. Sometimes you overthink that, and it's like, well, it's too obvious for it to be that, and sometimes that's exactly why it is that. Brody, what did you think about putting together our coven, depending on where you pronounce the word? What did you think, Brody?
Well, she did when she was driving in the car with Teen. He said, "How do you find a coven?" And she said, "Well, rumor has it that you're always 3 minutes away from finding a coven," which is how I think she ended up at the psychic. And she knew Shamir Zameda was working there. And like, she sort of had an idea because they had to be within a certain, distance from her. So I thought it was, now in the credits, there's 5 tarot cards, which tells me that there's probably 5 witches and there's 5 points on a pentagram. And I believe there's a 5th witch. I think it's Rio. In one of the trailers a month or 2 ago, you see Rio on the road with them. She pops up and like stops them in their tracks. So she's in there with them at some point, but she's not whether she's the 5th witch or gets convinced to help them because she wants Wanda to get her power back so she can kill her with her power. That's it. Yep, that's it.
Ivan Soto says in the trailer, Rio comes out of the ground, so I doubt Sharon Davis is her. We shall see. As
have we seen Sharon Davis and Rio in the same shot?
In the scene on the trailer, yes.
Okay,
but she could be casting an image. Sure. She's a witch.
Yeah.
And speaking of Sharon Davis, Cam Egan, like that she's still carrying her purse down Witch's Road. Look, you never know when you're going to need that stuff.
Yeah.
You may need a cough drop or
Oh.
what's
Well, it makes
what
me
was
What if
the
they
wonder.
get to a
original?
bar and she gets ID'd, you know?
It does make me wonder if Aubrey has been like, because Aubrey kind of just appears places, it seems.
Yeah.
So it makes you wonder if while they're singing the song, if she's somewhere nearby while the seven are like encroaching in on them.
Yeah, I mean, she said she was going to watch it happen, so
Yeah.
she's definitely
Right.
there in some capacity.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the witches out in the street breaking into the house while Teen is trying to fend them off.
So creepy.
So go ahead.
Yeah,
Katie.
it just like this is a part of like the imagery and stuff that I thought was really cool, like just like the sort of like snap cuts that they made and like speeding up some of the walking, like very very horror movie style, very zombie almost in a way. Where it like juxtaposes from where we were at, where it was sort of like the burbs, and then we're going into like straight up horror style, and that like crouching in. I don't know. I'm glad that Disney is going this far on this.
Yeah, no, and I think seeing, that there is this threat pursuing them and, being stopped for now, I think is one thing, but I feel like that's going to continue. And some of the visuals one of you brought up, the slithering down the stairs. So, sort of seeing that. Nate, did you have any thoughts sort of about that? Were there 7 of them? Because I didn't count, and I'm realizing
There were
now
7 of them, yeah.
Okay,
I
that's
think
what I thought, but I didn't know for sure. Yeah,
it was a lot less cringe than it should have been for them all standing in a basement singing a song. I enjoyed it. However, I think upon a rewatch, like the pacing of it is just kind of weird. Like if I was editing that, I would have just had them appear later on in the song, because it creates this sense of like urgency, and then it just like stops. There's like this weird stuff that happens outside. He runs inside and puts a couch in front of the door, because that's supposed to stop these magical beings that just popped into 7 of them from one out of nowhere. That's supposed to stop it somehow.
Yeah,
And
no,
then he
but to
goes
be
and just-
fair, most witches can be stopped by IKEA.
But then he
And,
goes
like,
and just
closing
sits
the blinds.
down. He just
Maybe
sits
one of
down
them
on
was
a
Jaden
chair.
Vance.
He just sits down on a chair. Right. Oh God.
The couch will stop him. He'll get distracted.
Could not help
No-
yourself.
No bell, huh? Okay.
I bell that. I bell that.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
But Nate,
Then
so
he sits in
he's
a chair right next to a window. You never do that in spooky movies. That's a recipe. They're outside.
Yeah.
You think they're not going to come through the window? And then like 30 minutes later, he comes down and he's like, maybe we should get out of here. Like, I don't know. You think so? You think when they first popped up in the street and there was 7 of them that you should have said, hey, is this normal, Agatha? Like, just go downstairs. Damn. Like, that part to me was really frustrating. Like,
you can't.
They're trying to create this urgency and this sense of dread, and then they just stop and they cut back and they're like, look at this wonderful song. Look at this cool, powerful, witchy moment of sisterhood, and we're harmonizing, and now we're doing what's it called? Where you do the row your boat, where they like syncopate the lines, and oh wow, look at that, we're so in sync. And I'm like, there's like creepy things outside that are trying to kill you, and homie's just upstairs by himself.
Ivan Soda says Teen is a teenager, not the smartest bunch. It is in his name.
Very true.
That's it's a great point. So there goes our community outreach to the youth. And then yes, Daniel, remember, people do dumb things in horror movies. Yes,
This is
why I don't watch horror movies.
explain. Yeah. Well, they kind of break it down very well in the first Scream, and as we all know, you should never say, "I'll be right back."
Right.
You can't ever say that. Brody, your thoughts sort of on the witches and everything that we're building towards at the end of episode 2.
Well, I will say I agree completely with Nate. The song went on way too long. And the fact that 7 powerful witches can't get by a couch and an open window for a minute and a half to 2 minutes. I'm like, why aren't they in the basement already? Why aren't they coming in the house? Like, Wiccan isn't holding them off. He's looking out the window like he's scared. Dude, run downstairs. So that's the only thing that angered me, was that, yes, they should have started the song and then maybe halfway through the song, Or like, the national anthem, you only sing the first verse, you don't sing the other 8 verses. There's got to be a way to yada, 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 Bath to the Witches, like get to the end. But they didn't do that. So
you just made me think about it would be great if someone is hired to sing the Star Spangled Banner before a sporting event, and then they go into the second verse.
Right.
And then everybody,
and
so, what, you going to sit down?
Brave.
Yeah. And then,
yeah.
Which, anyway. So, I think that I was not as skeptical as Nate coming into the series, but Nate, I will say I could relate because it's 3 years. I don't know. I mean, I think because I liked her as Agatha, I was willing to roll the dice on it, but I wasn't convinced that I was going to be interested in it. And I wasn't sure if the Mayor of Easttown gimmick was going to annoy me too much. And I hope that that's the one time we hear the song in this series. I don't need them to sing it again.
I don't think it will be.
Yeah.
They only needed it to get to the road. So hopefully they don't get off the road too far.
I mean,
I'll
the
remind
songs
you
here
that you said
are literally the titles of the episode. So
Yeah.
Yeah. So because the first episode is called Seekest Thou the Road, and then episode 2 is called Circle Sewn with Fate / because it's the next line in the song, Unlock Thy Hidden Gate. So yes. And the subsequent episode titles have not been released yet. So we'll have to go along
ahead in the lyrics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. Somebody should post the lyrics and then we'll know. All right. Ivan and Daniel, start transcribing the lyrics because I know I'm not going to do it. Well, I'm intrigued and interested and looking forward to journeying on the road with our characters and all of you and everyone in the chat until there could any week you have to tune in to see, is this the week that Nate's just going to veer off on some side road and be like, nah, I'm just going to check out
wait a
something
minute.
else.
Nate was very clear. He said I had to switch from my show enjoying mind to his other mind, his analytical mind, which means at one point he was using his show enjoying brain.
I was trying to.
Yes. He was trying. So he may have been show enjoying because he said he was trying. So
I sat with Nate for 6 weeks as he tried to enjoy Secret Invasion, and
impossible.
I don't believe it ever worked. It didn't work.
Man,
no.
I didn't even make it.
This is much more promising than that.
Okay, Nate, gun to your head. Secret Invasion or the Acolyte?
I haven't seen the Acolyte, but I would watch. I would rather watch that.
Imagine Secret Invasion with lightsabers and singing.
I mean, at least it would look cool. I've seen clips of that show. I don't care if it's bad. I've seen clips that look amazing. There are
fights
some great visuals in there.
That comes anywhere near. If Secret Invasion at least looked good, it would have a minor redeeming quality. But it doesn't. It looks terrible. It makes no sense. It's just all bad all the way down. I think for me, the issue that I have with this show is that when they announced, Agatha's getting a spinoff, I was barely excited about it then. It felt very much just like the Marvel way of like corporate thinking. This is popular. It's a meme on the internet. We have to make a show of it now. That I had zero interest in. However, a show that, again, it introduces us more to the magical element of Marvel, especially with how popular Scarlet Witch is, and like not just making her a mutant, but also buying in more to the magic stuff, giving us more about Agatha's background, why she actually is an important character that people recognize and pointed out, and then also introducing us to Wiccan and giving us some type of resolution of what happened to the kids. That I am all for. It's just I didn't get any of that from the marketing until like the last couple weeks when people were like, "Oh, there's mysterious teen on the show who's definitely Wiccan," and then I was like, "Okay, maybe I can check it out." So I think so far it's heading in the right direction. The visuals look great. They did a fantastic job of using practical effects and locations. I'm happy to see a Marvel show that's not on the volume for everything. Finally. But also, I just personally, I'm not a big witchy Salem person. It's just not like the horror stuff, the tarot stuff. It's just not really my vibe. But not gonna happen. But one of my favorite things about comics, I've said this before on the show, we have homogenized comics because of the movie-ness to being just superheroes, but comics expand far beyond that. You have the space comics, like with the Guardian stuff, you have the magic stuff, you have, there's low fantasy, there's high fantasy, there's all kinds, especially within the Marvel universe, there's all kinds of different horror stuff. Exactly. Like, I know that the what was the horror miniseries, that It Came by Night or whatever thing,
Werewolf
Night?
by Night.
By night, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't
Werewolf by
watch
Night.
that because that's just not for me. It's not my thing. However, I love that they are making that for other people and people enjoy that, because to me, again, that's the best part about comics. When you go to the comic book store, you don't have to read every single Marvel imprint. You're like, I like this one, I like that one, I like that Corey, that character, I like those themes, whatever, and you pick what you like and you enjoy that. And I think if Marvel will invest more in that, allow that individual property to be what it's about instead of trying to homogenize it for everyone, I think the product is going to be better. Because I think that was the problem with Secret Invasion. They tried to make it like it was like one of the Avengers lost movies, instead of fully buying into the espionage thriller, spy, international politics stuff that would have made it actually really interesting. But they didn't do that.
Yeah, and I mean, to that extent, there are so many things that I keep expecting at some point, that aren't tied into the MCU or the Marvel universe in the comics. There's like Western characters like Rawhide Rex and Two Gun Kid, and I'm like, well, at some point they should do that. Now, I never bought those comics because I wasn't interested. I would probably check out a show because it would be on Disney Plus and I wouldn't have to pay extra for it. But there's still a lot of these opportunities of things that we could get, and dealing with this stuff is interesting. And I would like to see if they're ever able to reconcile this Agatha Harkness with the one from the pages of the Fantastic Four. I don't think that'll happen in the next 6-7 weeks, but I'm interested to keep an eye on it and find out. I believe we'll do the show in this spot again next week, this time 3 Eastern, noon Pacific. I will be sure to let people know if we do it at another time, but I will not schedule anything right beforehand, Katie, so I will and I only have to watch one episode. That's really the problem, was the double dipping. But until we come back, I want to let everybody know where you can find them. Where, Katie, can we find you napping through happy hour?
Nice and well done. Yes, you can find me on the Napping Through Happy Hour podcast on the Geekscape Network. Or you can always catch me live in LA every other Wednesday at the Pack Theater with Faux Pas. We take your embarrassing stories and we sometimes make them worse. And then,
except for the one Wednesday that Eric Connor and I were going to go, and you had to cancel the show because the air conditioner was broken and it was 110 degrees.
Yeah, it was awful. It was a very good reason, and trust me, you don't want to see improv in the heat.
Do I?
Bikram comedy.
It's hot. Yes, and it's sweating.
Right.
I know, right? Lose weight while you watch a show. But yes, there's also going to be more shows and things I'm going to be involved in. So check out the Pack website, or just follow me at ElSassyPants on all the things, sometimes with a Z, but ELSASSY. PANTS, sometimes with a Z. There it is. I don't know.
Sometimes with a Z.
My brain's dead now.
Because this is Katie's residual excitement. We did a show before this that she was way more excited about than hanging out with us talking about Agatha. On the Geekscape channel, you can find a special we did where we talked about Ron Howard's documentary about Jim Henson called Idea Man, and we were joined by my friend Gene Beretta and his brother Bill Beretta, who has taken over a number of the Muppet characters that Jim used to do. He's also very heavily involved in the production for really the 21st century. Anything you've liked from the Muppets in the 21st century, Bill is very heavily involved. So there might have been a little nerding out, and that show going 2 hours and 20 minutes is why this show had to start 5 minutes later. So you can find that on the Geekscape channel, or you can find the audio from it on my podcast feed, the Blattcast, BLADTCAST. Nate, where can people find you?
You can find me everywhere: Twitter, Instagram, Rumble, all that stuff. Dog like Nate with two.
Are you on Rumble?
I'm not on Rumble.
I was just gonna say, like,
social
I can imagine you doing a really edgy show where you're encouraging people to send you Rumble rants, which are like super chats. but Rumble rant.
I don't know if
Yeah.
I have the sanity for that.
For Rumble or reading
For people to
chats.
send me Rumble super chats.
Yeah. Oh, one day, I would be happy to do it. I read all sorts of super chats. If you give me money, I'll put it in my mouth. Hey, I think David Brody said that once. Where can people find you?
On my knees, apparently.
Oh, good Lord.
You
This
can
is a
find me
kid's
at
show.
You could find me at David Brody, never spelled with a Z. That's Brody with a Y on Instagram and Twitter. Katie needs a landing page. You can just say go to hampton.org or something, and then all the links are there. You could find me on the Brooklyn Boys podcast, and you will not find me on False Social. So just on Instagram and Twitter.
At some point, Brody and I will announce a new project that we're in the planning stages of. With our friend Eric Nagel, but not ready for prime time or any time yet. Anyway, all right. Thank you. Cami Egan says, give the bell, and she even sends us bell symbols. Thank you to the chat for always being so engaging and also just knowing stuff that I'm not smart enough to have picked up on or too lazy to have Googled. Sam Bibley wants to give you the hard case that it's bumping on False Social these days.
This is huge. Ironically, everything's true on that site. So it's crazy.
Interestingly, I always appreciate Sam Bibley being Master Shake from Aqua Teen Hunger Force. In any case, that is all the time we have for now. As the great Stan Lee would say, Excelsior!